I am, dude. Okay, don't try to demote me. Okay. Hey, good evening, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and call to order the meeting of the City of Bloomington Township. If everyone could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Kearns. Here. Trustee Bolin.
Here.
Trustee Motney. Here. Trustee Becker.
Here.
Trustee Crumpler.
Here.
And Trustee Millawamwe. Sorry.
Here. We're going to move on to public comment. Do we have any public comment?
We received no public comment, emailed or in-person registration.
Okay, thank you. And moving on to the consent agenda, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, motion by Council, Trustee Bolin. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Kearns. And are we voting electronically?
Yep.
Okay, and did Trustee Ward vote or? Oh,
Yes,
you
she did.
Okay, all
Yep.
right, awesome. In the nick of time.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so the consent agenda passes, no nays to announce, and we're gonna move on to the regular agenda and item 6A, consideration and action to extend the contract with Phillips and Associates CPAs as the Township and Cemetery Financial Auditor for fiscal year 2025 and 2026, as requested by the City of Bloomington Township. Township Supervisor, Sia Root, do you have remarks?
I really don't have a comment. We've used them for a number of years. We're going through the audit, finalizing it now, and we just need to extend it beyond the existing contract. We have set prices that have been established in the original contract if we were to extend it. So it's keeping our costs down to do that.
Okay, sounds good.
I'll make a
Motion?
motion to approve as
Okay.
presented.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Trustee Motney, second by Trustee Crumpler. Voting again, right, electronically? I don't know why I'm pointing at the screen. Okay, so the item passes, no nays to announce. And now we're gonna move on to reports by our township officials, starting with Supervisor Skillard.
Okay, you'll note in my supervisor's report, there's an additional community agency funding, and it's new for us for $10,000 for Home Sweet Home Ministry for street outreach. I wanted to read a couple things that they're using the funding for. It will focus on identifying and engaging individuals who are not connected to homeless services by moving them towards shelter and housing. The street outreach will also provide tangible assistance to increase survivability while unsheltered. These services are provided throughout Bloomington, including the existing encampments and other known areas where unsheltered individuals congregate. My focus would be to, my intent and for this is to see if we can get them into housing somewhere. So it's supporting Home Sweet Home Ministries with that.
Okay.
Any questions about that? I do have one comment on this. This is supported through 60 ILCS 1-8513, which are different areas that we can focus on to provide whether we provide the assistance ourselves or set up a program ourselves, or somebody in the community that wouldn't duplicate the efforts can receive assistance from Township as well. We have a number of grant opportunities. If you look on your budget, you'll see under community funding, there's a number of ways we assist the community. This would be one of them.
Sounds good.
You have a question?
Questions?
Yeah, thanks for that
Mhm.
information. Is this something that would have to come back before the council to vote on, or is that something that you can authorize?
It is something that needs council approval. It's on
Okay.
the request for payment for it, and yes, it does require your approval.
And what is the maximum amount that you would have to offer for that?
That's the only amount left that's been in the budget. So the budget's already been accounted for with who we particularly, or how we specifically serve the community.
Mhm.
So this is a remaining amount that hasn't been served otherwise. So it would have to be put on the budget for future.
So when do you anticipate this will come back to council?
I'm sorry, what?
When do you anticipate this will come to council?
Oh, this is coming to council right now. It's in your
Oh.
request for payment.
Okay, okay, I
Mhm.
see.
Yeah, this is just a remaining balance
Mhm.
from budgeted amounts. So
Okay.
kind of
sounds-
for a pilot
Mhm.
program.
Okay, sounds good. Any other questions? No? Okay, all right.
I have one other thing too.
One other thing, okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. The other thing is, I want to make sure that you understand, next month, I'm planning on putting as an agenda item, a discussion regarding compensation for elected officials. That includes compensation for you as Board of Trustees and for for the assessor position and for the township position. We need to start discussions on that. This is not me taking the lead on this. This is you as board members that need to be discussing this. If you need assistance in any way from me, you certainly can call me and prepare ahead of time for that. But this is, needs to be discussed because by October 28th, that compensation has to be set.
Okay.
And it's all needs to be Open Meeting Act compliant. So all discussions need to be in front of the public view.
So, question?
Just that, that's just a FYI. That's what's going to have to take place. So I'm going to start that discussion in next month's agenda. I don't expect anything to be approved at that time, but
Mhm.
if you have any questions or need some assistance with something, let me know. And
Okay.
then I have nothing else for me.
I
Trustee Bullen?
don't have a question about that, but I want to go back to the township, the request from the township for the 10,000 funding for a street outreach case management
Yeah.
program.
Mhm.
I just want you to be made aware that the county has the same program, which is being subsidized or paid for with the sales tax, the local sales tax.
For a homeless thing.
For
for
homeless
homeless
outreach, yes,
outreach.
it's the Fuse program, and Home Sweet Home Mission has been made aware of that. I'm not to say we don't need two groups, I'm just want you to be aware
Thank you.
that that's out there.
And I understood the fuse to be more for like continuum of care for those who are heavy traffic users in the system. I don't know if, so
Well,
I'd have to research it for
N-
sure.
It's for homeless, whether or not they're drug addicted or whatever, but they do have an outreach.
Yeah.
They go out and they
Well-
meet with people that are homeless on the streets to evaluate whether or not they want to participate in the Fuse program or not. If they don't, that's fine, but at least they're reaching out and trying to encourage. They are caseworkers.
Great.
I just, the reason I bring this up is that so many times there's silos, so many times there's duplication of funding. And I just want you to be aware, if there's a need for two, I'm not against it, but I just want you to be aware that there is a program already
you.
tax funded. And
Yeah,
Everybody needs to work together.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. I was really just doing that because I didn't know that one existed, sorry. But PATH isn't doing what they need to do for the homeless, and that's where I was picking up on that. So
Good.
it's your decision as a board to decide whether you want it approved or not.
Okay, Assessor Scudder.
Good evening. The we're working through valuations for 2024. We got information from the county, from the state sales ratio work stating that the county of McLean is expected to increase assessments by a double-digit number again for 2024, kind of like last year. Believe the number they just gave me, a rough 10%, is what they're seeing across the board for the county altogether. I don't know how it'll affect everyone, but they said to start letting people know that assessments, sales prices are continuing to rise, and assessments have to be in line with what the sales prices are predicting. That being said, just that's an FYI. I don't know how it's going to turn out yet, but we're working towards it. And my office, I'm also looking for, we're going to need another vehicle coming up in the next year or so. So we're starting to research what kind of vehicle to use to do field work. The other vehicle we have is 10 years old, and then we have an old police car that we have available right now. But the old police car is about, I don't know how to say it. It's just ready to go because it's going to cost us more and more money to keep it up. And the car that we are using is a smaller vehicle, and we're starting to get people that it's a good car, cheap car for if you weigh 120, 130 pounds, but a 6'8" person or 6 foot tall person, it's kind of tight squeeze. So I'm looking at a larger vehicle and maybe something to share with the township side. And then I shared a report with you. This is a report, it's on paper today. I didn't have it in the packet of a comparison chart of our tax rates of municipals, entities in the county, alongside what their total rate is. And you can see where the city of Bloomington's city rate compares to Shinoa, Danvers, Leroy, Hudson, Lexington. It's a report one of the trustees used to ask for in the past, and I got the information and updated it again. Any questions?
Questions?
I just have one question about your phone call from the state of Illinois.
It's an email from the county office, what they received.
About the double-digit increase for the
Right.
coming year. What time period are they looking at sale prices from? What's the start date and stop date of that time period?
They are looking, they're looking at the whole county as a whole at that 10%. So, and the start date is 3 years of sales to the assessed values at the time of the sale. You're supposed to get credit for the adjustments that you made the 2 prior years. And then the remainder has to boost up the values. And then, like I said, this is towards the whole county, 10%. So if farmland goes up, that causes something, commercial causes go up. It doesn't mean it's a 10% towards just residential. It's across the board. So you're going to see increases in some properties and you may see decreases in others, but typically we haven't been low on the ratio side for 3 years. It's been usually a high ratio.
For whatever it's worth,
I mean, low, we've been low, not high. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, realtors are across the country are saying that things are staying on the market longer, the prices are starting to dip, that sort of thing. So it'll be interesting to see what they have to say. Thank you though for sharing this information.
Thank you. And
Th- This is just something small. And apologies for picking on the township because I know the city comes through with different vehicle requests too. That I appreciate you kind of laying it out that, that it's a small vehicle and then you're probably gonna ask for something larger, but that the township possibly, and then the city, I know, always ask for like trucks when they don't really need that. So, bigger capacity for humans sitting in it, I get, but not the towing.
Well, we may.
But
I-
yeah, so and that's my question, I guess, is like
I'm
what.
I'm
do
kind
you
of
need?
researching a bigger vehicle and maybe a truck for the dual use of what the township uses a vehicle to tow the pickup pots
Pots.
program. So if we could use a vehicle that's a little larger, and I was thinking instead of buying brand new, looking for a used vehicle because the amount of mileage we use. This is a 2013. It only has about 40,000 miles, but it's been a rough 40,000 miles. So if we had a used vehicle and got a reduced price, it'd be beneficial. Or if the city ever, I did contact the city to see if they had something available and they said all the used vehicles were already accounted for, that they wouldn't have nothing for a while.
I just wanted to make a comment to that because my understanding is to keep the little Spark as a secondary. Because sometimes there's more than, he's got a full staff now, so there's more than one use of it. The truck, potential truck, we do need it for pots as well, and he's more than willing to share that truck since we've been unable to get a vehicle for ourselves. And that would save on costs for U-Haul, especially as the season dwindles and we don't fill up a U-Haul truck, it would be helpful to have a vehicle that we can go out to the sites and pick up.
That makes sense. Thank you for that.
Okay, thank you. There are no other questions. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, motion by trustee
Second.
Boland, second by trustee Carnes. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, we'll see you in 10 minutes. Okay, are we ready? Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm gonna call the meeting of the City Council to order, and if everyone could stand if able to, and remain standing for a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Kearns,
Here.
Councilmember Bolin,
Here.
Councilmember Motney,
Here.
Councilmember Becker,
Here.
Councilmember Ward,
Here.
Councilmember Crumpler,
Here.
Mayor Milliwampe.
Here, and we're going to start with a recognition and appointments, presentation of the City of Bloomington Police Department's Police Officers Commission Certificate to Justin Callahan, William Hauk, okay, Austin Marburger, and Jesse Beam,
Beam.
Beam,
Yes, sir.
okay, awesome. Upon completion of their probationary period as requested by the police department. And should we go to the chief or city manager? Do you have? Okay, let's go to the chief.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, City Council, City Manager Jurgens, and Deputy City Manager Billy Tyus. It is an honor and pleasure to introduce 4 officers of the Bloomington Police Department who were hired on August 8th, 2022, who recently completed their 18-month probation period. During this time, they completed a 16-week basic training academy at the Macon County Law Enforcement Training Center, successfully completed the Illinois Law Enforcement Training and Standards Board Basic Police Officer Examination, and a 12-week field training program. The courage and desire to serve in this law enforcement profession are applaudable. I am incredibly proud of these 4 officers and the other 122 officers they serve with in this country's most noble profession, starting with Officer Jesse Beam. Officer Beam graduated from Heartland Community College with an associate's degree in criminal justice. He served in the Illinois Army National Guard from 2017 through 2023 as a military correctional and police officer. Before joining the Bloomington Police Department, Jesse worked as an installer for AirTech Heating and Cooling. And here is your commission. Congratulations. Cool. Next, we'll have Officer Justin Callahan. Justin is joined today with his wife, Catherine, and their 8-month-old Rooney. Officer Callahan graduated from Western Illinois University with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. Before joining the Bloomington Police Department, Justin worked as a juvenile detention center corrections officer in Peoria for approximately 2 years. Justin, here's your commission. Congratulations. You're welcome. Officer Josh Hauk. He's joined by his father, who also works for the city of Bloomington, his wife Hillary, and daughter Weslyn. He also has 2 other daughters, Malachi and Makina. Son and daughter, my apologies. Officer Hauk graduated from Midwest Christian Academy and used to volunteer at the McLean County Sheriff's Reserves. Before working for the Bloomington Police Department, he worked for the Illinois Department of Corrections at the Pontiac Maximum Security Facility for 6.5 years. Josh worked on several additional assignments there at IDOC and ascertained the rank of sergeant before departing for the Bloomington Police Department. He's been married for 7 years and enjoys fishing, hiking, and spending time with his family in St. Germain, Wisconsin. He also serves as Bloomington Police Department's singer, oftentimes singing the national anthem, which he also sang at the academy when he graduated. Here's your commission, Officer Hulk. And last, we'll have Officer Austin Marburger. Austin is joined today by his girlfriend, Josie. Officer Marburger graduated from Eureka College with a double major in criminal justice and environmental studies. Before joining the Bloomington Police Department, he worked at a nursing home. On behalf of the men and women, we are certainly proud of each and every one of them. I'll now present his commission. Congratulations. You're welcome. Thank you for the opportunity to recognize and provide the commissions to these officers, and we thank you for your support that you provide to the Bloomington Police Department and the community members that we serve to solve problems and improve the quality of life here in the city of Bloomington. Thank you for this opportunity.
Okay, thank you very much, Chief. And I want to say congratulations to all of you, and also thank you for joining the best police department in the whole world. And it is very often, as a matter of fact, as recently as this Saturday, that I hear a lot of very positive about the Bloomington Police Department. So we're definitely, you're joining a great group of colleagues, and we're very thankful for your dedication, and also thankful to your families as well, because I know they do sacrifice as well for you to do this job. So thank you very much. And we are going to move on to recognition of board and commission appointments and reappointments as requested by the administration department.
All right, there we go. Recognizing the appointment of Georgine Chisel to the Library Board of Trustees. And the reappointments of Ryan Whitehouse to Connect Transit and Tony Jones to the Human Relations Commission. And I do believe at least a couple are present. If you'd please
Yes.
stand.
Okay, thank you very much, Tony. So just fresh of, working on Juneteenth celebration, and I should say refresh because it was a pretty hot day. Thank you very much. Appreciate your service. And now we're going to move on to public comment. Madam Clerk, do we have public comment?
We received no emailed public comment, but we do have two people registered to speak in person. The first will be Serena Fish and then Gary Lambert after your statement.
Okay. Public comment is an opportunity for the speakers to provide their views and feedback to the city council. It is also an opportunity for the city council to listen and hear diverse points of view. To maximize the impact of public comment and show respect for the expression of all views, speakers should maintain civility and focus on city issues. Speakers must identify themselves for the record, but are not required to give their address. Each speaker is given the floor for 3 minutes, and the council does not respond or engage in debate. Any speaker that engages in threatening or disorderly behavior will be deemed out of order and their time ceased. I don't think so. Doesn't sound like it.
Hey, go back to the 3 minutes, please. Use that one instead. Hello, my name is Serena
Can you
Fish.
put that 3 minutes back? Oh, okay. Oh, you're sorry.
My name is Serena Fish. Congratulations to our new members of the police department. And in case anybody wants to, we have this Wednesday, the quarterly meeting of the PSCRB board. I welcome any of you that would like to come and sit in. I have a new topic tonight. There is a item coming up, a group of people who are talking about putting a lot of different local agencies together in one building. Midwest Food Bank, Cheston Health Services, Regional Office of Education number 17, which is alternative school. Mark First, which is now Lifelong Access. I attended a meeting last Wednesday that was for Downtown Business Associates. No one in the city was there, including my city alderman, Ward 6, or any representative from him. Basically, all the problems we're already having, they're talking about buying the Pantograph building and moving all of these entities into the building. We already have problems like with people from the alternative school. They come in, we have had to chase them out a couple times with ankle bracelets on. What they're going to cover is adolescent substance abuse, disorder treatments, alternative youth education, behavioral health and psychiatric services, program for adults with disabilities, food security programs, housing support. No one's not saying these aren't needed, but please do not put it in the middle of downtown. And at the meeting, it was almost unanimous that all of the business owners from downtown were going, please don't. Please do not make it worse than it already is. And if you're, I'm almost done, sir. This is important. And it's like the only place I have seen this advertised is in the throwaway Pantograph paper. It has not been anywhere. I love you dearly. It's important. You're not the one that's dealing on a daily basis with the crazies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next.
Next up is Gary Lambert.
Good evening. My name is Gary Lambert. It's a good lead in, Serena had. In years gone by, communication and interaction with the mayor and the city council was much better than it is today. You need to ask yourselves why. Back a few years ago, they put in the limit of 30 minutes for public comment. The audience, while it wasn't always full, there were a lot of people there. That 30 minutes allowed 10 people to speak. Sometimes it went over. They were rescheduled to the following meeting if there was an excess number of people. Last council last council meeting, you had a single speaker. She put time and effort in the message she was trying to deliver. You cut her off at 3 minutes, according to the rules. Tonight, we've got 2 speakers. She didn't have time to get her message out. My message is simple, I guess. If you have less than half a dozen speakers scheduled, perhaps allow up to 5 minutes per individual. Getting cut off is not conducive to having an inviting environment. A lot of people aren't used to speaking in public. That just makes it worse. Similar issue. Previous mayor had Friday afternoon, late Friday afternoon, meetings for anybody to attend, just to sit down around a table and discuss anything that was on their mind. Those that were somewhat didn't like to be in crowds could come there. It may have happened, but I don't recall it. I don't recall a current meeting such as that with our current mayor. Just some points to ponder.
There's no further public comment.
Okay, thank you. And next item is a public hearing on a substantial amendment for the program year 2020 Community Development Block Grant Annual Action Plan as requested by the Economic Community Development Department. And I'm going to call to order the hearing, and the time is 6:19. Yes. And I believe we have William here, so we'll just go to you and for your presentation.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, City Manager. Tonight, this public hearing will focus on a substantial amendment to the CDBG Program Year 2020 Annual Action Plan. Next slide, please. In 2020, the CARES Act provided supplemental funding to the CDBG program to prepare, prevent, and respond to the COVID-19 pandemic. This supplemental funding, known as CDBG CV, was provided to the city to fund activities related to the pandemic. The funding was provided and awarded during program year 2020. HUD awarded the city over $800,000 for these activities. Next slide, please. From 2020 to 2022, the city used CDBG CV funds to provide rent, mortgage, utility, and business support. All but nearly $30,000 has been spent, and remaining funds were originally allocated for administrative costs related to the CDBG CV activities. Remaining funds must be used to prepare, prevent, and respond to the COVID-19 pandemic as well. Next slide, please. To spend remaining funds, staff is proposing a substantial amendment to include park improvement projects as a part of the 2020 Annual Action Plan, which will include an improvement to the Empire Junction Park. Improvements will include exercise equipment that will provide community members a better opportunity to exercise outdoors when transmission rates of COVID-19 are high. Some of this equipment will have features that provide community members of all abilities access to exercise equipment in the park. During the pandemic, the park lacked sufficient amenities to serve the surrounding neighborhoods in a manner consistent with public health measures. Next slide, please. This project was originally included in the program year 2023 Annual Action Plan draft. However, HUD provided updated guidance to staff that required additional technical assistance to determine if the proposed project would meet the new guidance under the CARES Act. HUD also directed the city to amend the program year 2020 Annual Action Plan to include park improvement projects under CDBG CV funding rather than a current program year, which is why we are amending a annual action plan from several years ago. Next slide, please. Public comment for the substantial amendment has been available since May 28th and will be available until June 28th. My contact information is there if folks would like to provide public comment. I would also just like to say a special thank you to our Parks and Recreation Department for their assistance with this project. And I'll take your questions.
Okay, awesome. At this point, we're going to move to the public input phase, and we'll ask anyone from the public that wants to testify to come forward. Individuals will be allowed to speak only once, and we ask that you keep your remarks reasonably short so that we can get through everyone that desires to speak. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone registered?
We did not have anyone register.
Okay, is there anyone here who would like to speak on this item? No? Okay, all right. I guess at this point, we'll close the public hearing and the time is 6:22. And we are going to move on to the next public hearing. I think we have Kevin Cothey coming up. And this is a public hearing on a proposal requesting to the vacation of the west 151.5 feet of the east-west alley between Northwestern Avenue and North-South Alley to the east, as requested by the Department of Operations and Engineering Services. And I'm gonna call to order the meeting at about 6:23. Open the hearing. And we're gonna turn it over to Kevin Cothey, Director of DUS, to provide some remarks.
Okay, thank you, Mayor and Council. As noted, this is consideration of vacation, partial vacation of a public alley, an east-west public alley that's, as noted, bounded by Locust to the north, Mulberry to the south, Western to the west, and then Morris to the east. The alley vacation is necessary for an expansion of the Western Avenue Community Center parking lot in this area. Part of their parking lot already occupies part of the alley, so this is really kind of, in a way, cleaning some things up there. We also engaged the adjoining property owners. Several of them are interested in obtaining the portion of the alley behind their property. The two furthest to the east were not, and so that's why this is considered as a partial vacation. It does not affect the operations for the alley. The alley is already overgrown and blocked and has been impassable for a number of years. With the street alley and vacation right-of-way policy, there is 4 standards that are all met, and that is included in your packet of those conditions. So staff is recommending that council authorize the vacation of this public alley. All the utilities were contacted. There are no utilities in the alley that require a utility reservation for an easement or anything like that. So kind of short and sweet, and I'll turn it over back to you, Mayor, for the hearing, and then any questions.
Okay, sounds good. Do we have anybody from Western Avenue here that would like to speak?
I do not believe that we do. Oh, did you want to speak?
Okay.
She said
Alright.
she's okay.
Okay, sounds good. And at this time, we'll ask anyone from the public that wants to testify to come forward. Individuals, again, are allowed to speak only once. We ask that you keep your remarks reasonably short so that we can get through everyone that desires to speak. Is there anybody registered?
No one registered.
Okay, all right. Then we will go ahead and close the public hearing at 6:25. Thank you, Kevin. And now we're going to move on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Bolin. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Kearns. Okay, the consent agenda passes, no nays to announce. And we are going to move on then to the regular agenda. And with item 8A, I guess, Kevin, you get to come on back up. And again, this is a consideration and action on the ordinance approving the vacation of the west 151.5 feet of the east-west alley between Northwestern Avenue and the north-south alley to the east. And do I need to turn over to you, Jeff, or do you have any comments you'd like to make, or just Kevin?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I would just say this has been a project that's been in the works for a long time now. City staff has been very supportive of the Western Avenue project. And with that, I turn it over to Director Cothey, and he can answer any additional questions that the council may have.
Nothing
Good
else to add?
question.
Okay, so let's just go to council. Any questions? Okay, seeing none, you could have sat back there. Okay, is there a motion to approve then?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Bullen. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Councilmember Ward. And you can go ahead and vote. Okay, the item passes. There are no nays to announce. And we're going to move on to item 8B, a discussion and potential direction on housing issues with the city of Bloomington, within the city of Bloomington as requested by the administration department. And I'm going to turn it over to City Manager Jurgens for some introductory remarks.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. And if you can pull my presentation up, it's a very brief presentation. But wanted tonight to bring forward the housing discussion, continue that discussion. Last week, we started that, had some different feedback and really that was helpful. We tried to, as staff, put together a resolution to kind of focus in, and if you could go to the next slide. Tonight, we wanted to continue that discussion, and really there are a lot of different options, but a couple of different primary options. One is, does this council want to consider a resolution that sets priorities and that gives direction to staff? That's what we've drafted. That's not on the agenda for approval tonight, but you could tell us if you want to see something like that at a future meeting and give us some additional feedback. That resolution, based on the feedback that we heard at the last council meeting, would be to develop a standardized housing incentive package, would focus on neighborhood rehabilitation, also intergovernmental collaboration, and also a review of the zoning code and subdivision code. It would not include, based on the feedback at the last council meeting, any type of an interest or financing program. And you, like I said, you've all been provided with samples of what that type of resolution might look like. And then also a couple of council members, including Councilmember Bolin, have given some feedback. And so you have that in front of you as a hard copy as well. Another alternative would be to not approve a resolution and instead ask us to just bring back individual programs for consideration. That's something else that we could do, or maybe there's something else entirely that the council would like us to do. So tonight, we just wanted to give more opportunity for the council to have discussion and to provide direction to the staff on what you might want to see. Tonight, we've got Kelly Pfeiffer, our Assistant Director of Economic and Community Development, if there are questions for her, as well as Deputy City Manager Billy Tice. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Mayor.
Okay, sounds good. Do we have questions from council? Okay, Councilmember Money. Oh, sorry, Councilmember Crumpler. I was looking that way.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. A couple of things. I really took some time. And thank you for providing the symposium report. I really took some time since we last met to take a look at that. A couple of observations and then maybe some questions that maybe would help us think some more. I noticed that 17 out of 48 participants identified either the west side of Bloomington or the downtown area where housing is needed. And so I wonder, I guess one of my questions is why not target these areas and provide incentives to support builders / developers who are willing to build and renovate these areas? I mean, it just seems like there was a will there, a group of people who really thought that was two important areas, and I certainly would support that. And I wonder if targeting some specific areas maybe would help us, focus what we're really about and trying to get done. Secondly, I understand the cost of materials and current interest rates are a primary barrier and for new development. You mentioned this last time, Jeff, I think. And I mentioned this last time too, but I want to reiterate. It seems to me, I wonder if contractors are willing to work with the city as financial partners to help solve the problem of the larger community, not just rely on the city to finance everything. And then I guess finally, after evaluating some of the potential housing solutions generated from the symposium discussion, a couple of things, and I believe Councilmember Motney mentioned this last time too. I wonder about costs of things like an interest rate buy down. What would that cost the city? I also am wondering about the cost of a standardized incentive package. What would be involved in that? And there was I think there was a mention of small developers, and I wonder if Deputy City Manager Tyus, if you all had a chance to meet with some small developers and whether they had a response to what you all are calling an incremental developmental toolkit. Just wondered, what that might look like. And then finally, we do have Thorn Run that we hired a couple years ago. And I wonder if that agency in DC could assist with identifying grant support for any of these endeavors that the city might want to take on.
Do you want me to?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Thanks. I'll try and address some of those quickly. First, on the identified areas for housing, the question that we asked, I believe everybody in the room was, where do you think the best spot would be for more housing? And so it wasn't necessarily where more housing is needed, it was just where do they think the best spot for more housing was? So just wanted to clarify that. And it was a fairly vague question. As to the Thorn Run question, we do have conversations all the time with them and with our local legislators as well about potential infrastructure. And I think that's really where their help comes into play. But we also do talk to our leaders about other types of programs that might be developed. But probably in terms of financial assistance, it's going to be more in the form of infrastructure that they could help put in. But again, that's not to preclude that the state may come up with some sort of a inventive package or deal. The other thing that I would add is, and I think this gets to one of your questions, and I'll let Deputy City Manager Tyus answer the one question specifically you had for him, but regarding tax credits. One of the things that we've had follow-up conversations with, and you talk about the cost of, what the cost of an incentive package might look like. That would be up to the council. It would truly be, are you looking at potentially waiving permit fees, connection fees, those types of things? We would come back and tell you, what those costs would be, and we can detail exactly what those permit fees and things like that are. Where we believe that will be most impactful is to developers that use tax credits, whether it be low income, historic tax credits, or senior housing tax credits, because those developers are able to leverage that donation. So if we waive a permit fee, they're able to leverage that as a donation and they get more points on their tax credit application. So that's where we believe that would be the most impactful, and the developers that we've talked to that utilize those do believe that type of thing would be helpful and would be an incentive to developing that type of housing. So that would likely be one recommendation that we would come forward with if the council was interested in a package like that. But again, we would share what those costs would be, and that would be something the council would be aware of. Deputy City Manager Tice, anything I missed there or something you want to add on his other question?
Sorry, nope, not at all. And to a incremental toolkit, we have met with several small developers actually since the symposium, had a lot of great conversations, I feel like, at least, and gotten a lot of great input. We would absolutely be open to something like that. And when we talk about a standardized housing incentive package, that doesn't necessarily mean it's one thing and it's this percentage and this is what you get. It could have, for developers of a certain size, you could be able to access this toolkit to do this, and this. So we would absolutely be open to that. And when we think about that, it fits under the category of a standardized incentive package, if that makes sense.
It could also be at the location too. If we want to
Yes.
incentivize housing on this part of town or in downtown, or it could be focused on that. So there's maybe more of an incentive based on the type of housing and the location that the council desires.
Thank you. That helps a lot. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Bonte.
Thank you. So I'm glad you mentioned the HUD connection. I know there was a press release earlier this month. HUD celebrates annual National Homeownership Month. If you guys haven't taken a look at it, it lays out a list of federal efforts that have been made to close the gap on this issue that might provide some good ideas there. Two other points, really. One is something that we talked about last week. Councilmember Ward mentioned it, and I agree and support a targeted effort to try and address blighted properties that are currently uninhabitable, to see if there's something that we can do to help both improve the quality of the neighborhoods that they're in. And that might be a well-defined, actionable opportunity to make a difference. And the second piece is the number of units that we have currently on the market for Airbnbs. I've brought that to the attention of staff since it was brought to my attention by a number of stakeholders, not only homeowners and others who feel that this is impacting their own neighborhoods, but also hotel companies that feel that it's not a level playing field as well for those who are hoteliers in this community. So I think that is something that could be looked at. 190 units currently listed when you search Bloomington on Airbnb. And there's a lot of great information out there. If you just Google the impact Airbnb is having on housing stock availability and rental rates across not only the country, but also across the world. For those reasons, and I think for the reasons that we're talking about here, as so many new ideas come to pass, I don't think a resolution setting housing priorities is necessary, because this is something that over my 3 years plus on the council, staff has regularly brought up opportunities, including incentives that are specific to circumstances as they present. And I think, that gives us the agility to react to emerging priorities, things that might come to our attention that would be opportunities that we might not capture in a series of whereas statements, here today on June 24th, 2024. So those are my thoughts. I really appreciate the dialogue these last few weeks. I think it's been very helpful. I've learned a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Kearns. And then Bolin.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can pick up where Councilmember Motney left off, because that's something that I keep going back and forth on, where I think having a resolution to me makes it very clear and decisive what we as a council and as a city want to communicate to maybe the rest of the community, and like with the town and the county and the state, what we want to do and the position that we're going to take when it comes to housing. But then on the other side, if we don't have a resolution, is that taking away from what our position is? So I don't know. So I guess either way, I guess I could be fine either way, but if we don't do a resolution, I want us to continue to aggressively do all the things that we would do if we had a resolution. So I guess that would be my position on things. So as long as that's happening, I guess I'm fine either way. And then, I guess that's my main point, is that we know, I think the resolution lays out in very clear terms what we should be looking at, where we should be putting our efforts, where staff should be, putting in their time and energy and looking into things. And to me, I think that is, whether it gets passed or not, I think it lays out what we've been talking about and what discussions you've been having. And so please go forward with that, whether you get enough votes on this panel or not, because, we can continue to have discussions about that. And that is, I guess I'm just kind of frustrated with us continuing to talk about it. I know that there's no easy answer, but let's continue to make incremental change. And that is going to serve us well in the long run. And we're going to thank ourselves down the road if we do make action. And so that is what I hope that we do. And so even if it is simple decisions like getting rid of parking minimums, or the big decisions of if we are, what the incentives look like. So I want us to continue to break off into those specific, we've isolated what the topics are. So let's delve into those specific things and keep moving forward.
Well, I think I know we've done resolutions before in the past to just kind of give some direction and, you know, a little bit of focus, but I, I mean, I think there could be a middle ground. It doesn't mean that just because we have a resolution, we couldn't consider something else that comes up, a brand new idea, right?
Yep.
Okay. I think we're going to Councilmember Bolin.
Me?
Yes, you.
Me? Thank you, Mayor. I do believe that there's a value to the resolution simply because it's our opinion. This is really what we want to do, and it puts a framework around what it is that we want to do. One point that I would like to basically have two resolutions simply because there's housing that's affordable and affordable housing, and they're handled two different ways. And getting the state and federal government and tax credits and all that, that's for affordable housing and would be addressed in a different way than with developers and locations and zoning and that type of thing. I also, please don't be offended, all these people that have done work. The Housing Coalition came into place under COVID, and there's been a lot of talk, and they've brought, you know, community members together, and I'm very thankful for that. We now have the McLean County plan that we can use to guide us. I would like to see action begin. So having a resolution will give us the framework, and we can bite off those pieces of the elephant and begin to address them in a prioritized way, taking things that are relatively easy, that doesn't involve a whole bunch of people working together, but that the staff can do, and bring those back. And be very conscious about every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So we have to be very careful of the decisions that we make and the consequences that they have. So, and I'll make a motion to extend for 10 minutes.
All right.
I'd like to
I
second
was
that
just gonna
motion.
ask that. Who seconded?
Second.
Okay, Councilmember Kern, so just voice vote, right?
Yeah. Councilmember Kearns?
Yes.
Councilmember Bolin?
Yes.
Councilmember Motney?
Yes.
Councilmember Becker?
Yes.
Councilmember Ward?
Aye.
Councilmember Crumpler?
Okay, awesome.
Yes.
No nays. For how long? Did you say how long? 10? Okay, 10. Okay, thank you. All right, I think next person is Councilmember Becker. No?
Go ahead.
Real quick, my main point is I'm not a big fan of the resolution. I don't think it really moves us forward. I think that there are, in the discussions that I've heard from last week and this week and even prior, there are some things that sound good on paper, but when you actually put pencil to paper and do the math, they just don't make any sense at all. And they also come into a territory where I don't feel we should be involved. I feel like there's things that we can do to facilitate and bring parties together and move things forward. We can make the city's services and policies and permitting and everything as efficient as possible so that no developer ever wastes any time. They get answers immediately. Those kind of things, time is money. We can really help them financially by just being good at what we do. I don't think we need this, but I do want to see, like everybody said, I want to see us making progress. I think the suggestions that Councilmember Montney said about cherry picking the things that are just low hanging fruit, that's what we can really do efficiently. There's enough of those to just pick those off for now. As other discussions are happening, as developers bring projects forward, we can then evaluate them on a case by case basis and do what's right. And I think we'd be better suited there than just trying to take what I consider, no offense to anyone, there's a lot of good work and a lot of good ideas, but this feels a little fluffy to me rather than true traction. So my 2 cents.
Thank you. Councilmember Ward.
Thank you. I actually like the idea of this resolution precisely because I feel like it prevents us from doing just a piecemeal approach to something that I think needs a much more comprehensive approach. I don't think anything in this proposed idea of a resolution would prevent us from picking the low-hanging fruit along the way or even beforehand. Before we hammer out this resolution. But what I do see this resolution doing is giving us some direction and some affirmation as a council that to staff that this is something that we want to pay a lot of attention to. And so for that reason, I'm in favor of doing a much more comprehensive resolution rather than just the piecemeal, well, let's pick this thing and let's pick that thing. Nothing to say we can't address things as they come along also. So to me, it's more of a both and. I also want to say that I especially like point B, the housing rehabilitation program section of this, as it's been shown to us. Especially point 3, not surprisingly, providing potential incentives and maybe and support for property owners to rehabilitate and develop housing, and possibly disincentives for people to not do that. So I think that language could be beefed up a bit in that regard. And then finally, I want to just say that I have a little bit of hesitation about getting very geographically specific about targeting specific areas. I like the language of blighted areas. When we start to get very specific geographically, I start to get a little anxious around, are we preventing mixed income neighborhoods? Are we trying to sort of warehouse everybody in one particular geographic neighborhood who's low income, and then everybody who's not low income goes in a different? I don't like that. So I'd much rather us just say, look, this is a blighted area. It needs attention. Let's deal with that. And then we can talk about, I'd just like to leave the geographic specifics out of that. So.
One thing that I would also add about resolutions, and it's just, food for thought, is that a resolutions, again, gives focus, sets priority beyond, what is the current council, right? Because, elections happen and you get new people on the council, and at least there is that, clarity of where the city as a whole is going. So that's just something to consider. Councilmember Kearns.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. So adding that comment and Councilmember Ward's comment of the both and with bringing Councilmember Becker's comment to giving clarity, to giving permission for the staff to say, this is what we're going to research and focus on, and give us a strategy so that when we are taking these case by case basis, these things that come up, we are prepared for when that comes up, instead of having to feel like each time we're starting from zero. And so we may have to do it on a case by case basis, but that we have come up with our strategy ahead of time so that we know where we want to go, I think makes sense. And then to that point, that we have, as a council, have given them some direction on our input on what we would like to see formally.
Sounds good. Councilmember Mati.
Yeah, I mean, just a couple final thoughts. So when you're trying to execute transformational change, it's easy to put together, broad sweeping statements. But how value is created is through focused execution. And that's, one thing at a time, derive value, build on that one thing at a time. I guess I would just offer that as you embark upon doing this work, to not concurrently pursue all fronts, because, until you actually are able to execute something, implement it, and derive the benefits, you just have a lot of plates spinning all at once. The other piece I just wanted to mention about process improvement and customer service around these things. When I read the symposium comments, I know we've had speakers that have talked about parking minimums, and I think staff has done a really good job of addressing those as they've come up. With everything, there's also a counter circumstance when perhaps, that doesn't operate as expected. And I can think of one location where, there was a challenge there that had to later be remedied. I just bring that up for backdrop to say, is phase one really doubling down on process improvement, improving speed, getting these permits and obstacles out of the way with our existing code, as opposed to, taking apart all of our code, as one of the early initiatives in this. Anyway, just a thought there.
Okay. Thank you. One thing I wanted to add is item C, so intergovernmental collaboration. I don't know ultimately what that looks like, but one of the things that I'm really interested in is to, so I don't know if that fits here, but I think it does in a certain way, is to make sure that we, down the line in the future, we never find ourselves in a similar situation. So conversations need to happen along the way. One of the things that I do remember is just with some of the companies that come to town and settle here, there are NDA agreements and you don't necessarily know what their numbers are going to be. But I think if we invest some time in thinking about that and thinking about their potential, maybe we can have a situation we can kind of head off this sort of situation, and where it doesn't take us by surprise. Did you want to add something?
No, thanks. This was a good conversation again tonight. The intent with the idea of a resolution was not for us to spin our wheels talking about a resolution or not. So I appreciate the conversation, and I appreciate, even in this conversation, hearing what the expectations are and what the intent of everybody is. So we'll continue to work on this. Like I said, we don't want to continue spinning our wheels on whether we want a resolution or not. I think we want to figure out what programs are going to move the needle, what's going to move us forward, what's going to help address the issue. So we will turn our focus to that, and we'll continue to have conversations with the elected officials, and perhaps, a resolution appears on the next agenda, and, if that's what it sounds like the majority want, and we'll take it from there. And then, the council can vote yay or nay. But either way, I think we start working, and we have been working on these ideas and what these programs will look like. But we continue that process. The idea of a resolution was really to just give an opportunity for the council to identify these as priorities, and these are the specific focus areas within those priorities. So, whether it's a resolution or not, really, it's either way to staff, but wanted to give the council the opportunity to really identify what those priorities of this council are collectively, and where you want us to focus our attention on. So ultimately, you guys, you can decide that. Either way, we will continue focusing on this issue and trying to develop the programs. The one thing I want to say is, what I think we as staff need the most direction on is how aggressive you want to be in terms of the financial impact of this. And so if there's no appetite to even consider waiving fees, then that's really going to limit our ability to have any kind of housing incentive program. The feedback that I think we took from the last meeting was, and this was reflected in the draft resolution, not really an appetite to play the bank, or to be the financer, or to do the interest buy down or anything like that. So the resolution actually says, yeah, that would probably help some, but that's not really within our wheelhouse. Instead, focus more on a program that may limit fees or limit those types of impacts. So that's really what we would focus on if we were going to do a housing incentive program. And so trying to figure out if there's if there's no appetite to do that, then there's really not much in terms of an incentive package we're going to be able to create. So it's those types of things to, if we can get some feedback from the council, that I think is the most helpful for us as staff.
Thank you. I think the 10 minutes are done. Okay, all right. So, well, this was just an information item, so we're
Yes.
gonna move on to the next item. Thank you, Jeff, and thank you, staff, for everything that you've done. This is great, gives us options. Um, Okay, so is the finance director's report, but we are going to, it's Chris. Okay, stepping in for Scott. I need to get more sleep. Okay, did you want to go first or?
No, just as you said, Chris Tomerlin's going to fill in for Scott Rathbun tonight. And so Chris, if you want to take it away.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council, and City Manager. This is our second of 3 reports for April 2024, fiscal 2024. Next slide, please. We are still trending well for FY 2024. A couple of notes to point out: our home rule sales tax, our state sales tax, and our income tax trended quite well for the fiscal year that ended April 30th. As Scott has noted previously, we did increase our projections that were approved by City Council in the adopted budget for 2025 for those 3 revenues. He noted below the year-to-date variance. We had estimated about 10 million. It looks like we're going to finish about $10.5 million ahead. Some of these are pooled funds together, so this is not all general fund dollars, as some of these dollars are shared with other funds. Next slide, please. This focuses more on the general fund revenues for FY 2024. To note on the tax line item, the variance year-to-date versus the budget is about a $10.5 million, which ties pretty closely to the last slide that we talked about. Again, the biggest drivers there being the home rule, state sales, and income tax, and also the replacement tax. A couple of other items to note: interest rates continue to be high. The Fed has not cut rates at this time, so we are earning more interest for the money that we do have across different platforms. And then also the benefit of the investment advisor that we have, where council probably a couple of years ago now, where we invested $25 million each with a couple of different advisors. Next slide, please. This focuses on the general fund expenditures. The salary and benefits, again, had trended a little bit higher than the revised budget for the current year. Across our 11 unions, council approves contracts that have increases annually, so that ties to that. And then also we had a contract that was just approved by council for Unit 21 for the police department. So that did have some retro that will go back into fiscal 24, some retro pay when that contract is finalized. We did have on contractuals a little bit higher this year on the BCPA artist fees, but that's actually a good thing because our revenues came in a lot higher than budgeted on the revenue side, on the charges for services on the revenue slide for the current year. One of the things Scott's pointed out as well is we jumped down maybe to the other expenditures or the ambulance write-offs. We're now netting those against the revenues and the charges for services again on the revenue slide. We had $4 million budgeted for the write-offs this year, which again are netted against the revenues, so that was not utilized on the expenditure side. We did have, just to note on some transfers that council approved this year. Council did approve a budget amendment for Locust Colton Phase 4 and 5, where we did transfer money from the general fund to water, sewer, and storm to go ahead and pay cash for that project. And I believe we accepted all the alternates on that project as well. So that was to the tune of about $10.5 million for that project. We are expecting right now our current unassigned fund balance at the end of the year to be somewhere in the $48 to $50 million range. Just to note for the fiscal 20, how that affects or rolls forward for fiscal 25, we have the adopted budget was approved with an $8.7 million use of fund balance for fiscal 25. And then council has approved about $6 million in budget amendments since the budget was adopted, of which about $5.5 million was for the purchase of the public works for the land acquisition and building acquisition for the new facility that council has just passed. So that's about $15 million use of fund balance for fiscal 25 out of that roughly ending year end 48, to $50 million fund balance. So that would knock us down to about $34 to $35 million in the general fund at this time. Next slide, please. Enterprise funds. Focus on the big ones here, and we highlight storm this month, which we will do on the next couple of slides. But just to point out kind of an ending fund balance for sewer and solid waste, those, we have a couple of capital leases where equipment has not come in for POs for 22 and 23. They did not come in until this year. We are actually going to go ahead, instead of enacting a lease, we're going to go ahead and pay cash for that equipment so that we do not need to put those items on a capital lease for 5 years and pay principal and interest, and ultimately save those funds some money. So that's about $550,000 in the sewer fund that's not shown on here that will come off that ending fund balance, and about $1.7 million in solid waste that will come off that $3.5 million estimated fund balance right now. Again, it's a great win for those funds. We look to do that when we can, if the fund balance is available. And again, ultimately it saves those funds and the taxpayers money. Next slide, please. So again, as mentioned, stormwater is our focus fund this month of the rotating funds that we talk about for the enterprise fund. So again, the use of fund balance in fiscal 24 was mainly to fund capital projects. Charges for services at this time, and again, there still can be some audit entries that are done, trended just about a little above the estimate, and that's again mainly the big charge for sewer that's on, or excuse me, storm that's on the utility bill every month. Again, highlight on the interest with the interest rates higher. Again, another gain there for us in that fund with the rates continuing to be higher. The unspent, the miscellaneous revenue, and then again, that will funnel down when we go to the expense slide here next, was East Street Basin has been rebudgeted for the current year. So that was $4 million in borrowing that was planned for fiscal 24 that was not realized because that project was bumped. And again, this was the portion of the transfer in about $2.5 million for Locust Colton Phase 4 and 5 for the stormwater part. And then there was another portion of ARPA money that shows as deferred up above of about $500,000 that we can't actually recognize that as revenue until we actually spend it. Next slide, please. And this focuses more on the expenditure side. To note, for the salaries, again, a little bit higher than what was budgeted. We have 3 departments, street maintenance, sewer, and storm, kind of share employees. So they're actually charged on an hourly basis based on where they're working during the course of the year or the pay period, for example. So we may have some years where the focus is more on storm than sewer and street maintenance or vice versa. So just to kind of let you know that they are paid based on what area they're working in at the time. So for last year for storm, again, trended a little bit higher that way. Again, talking about the capital expenditures being a little bit under, that's the $4 million that we had for the East Street Basin that, again, was deferred and rebudgeted and approved by council for this year to be included in the budget. The principal and interest are for IEPA loans that we have out there or for previous equipment leases that we have that are enacted, normally 5-year leases on some equipment that was purchased in previous years. And then the transfers out is to the general fund for billing and collections and admission admin fee. Next slide. And this summary, as always, can be located on the website at the location pointed there. And I will open it up to any questions. Thank you.
Council questions? I know stormwater is very exciting. No? Okay, no question. Fantastic job. Thank you. Okay, now we're going to move on to the city manager's discussion.
Thank you, Mayor. If they can pull up my report for tonight. And go to the next slide. Just a couple of things tonight I wanted to highlight. One, we had the Juneteenth celebration on Saturday. We had a great turnout and about double the amount of vendors that we've had in the past. It was very warm, but it was a great day and I appreciate everybody coming out for that. And if you can go to the next slide, we started the event with what will hopefully be a annual occurrence. Maybe the mayor won't play every year. The town city softball game. We had a lot of fun with this and I appreciate the participants that came out. If you look at the picture, we had a lot more players on the city side, but it only took a few from the town to take us down. So I appreciated them coming out and it was a great event. Great to see kind of our counterparts in a little different environment and to build on some of those relationships. So we appreciate all of that.
Next year, I'll be the equipment manager.
Yeah. The mayor, so I look out and one of the normal players is doing push-ups to warm up and the mayor is then telling me that he's never played baseball and doesn't even know the rules. So.
And didn't bring a glove.
Yeah, but it was a good time. It was all about the sportsmanship. So I wanted to just to highlight that and again, say thank you to the town of Normal for participating in that. If you go to the next slide, a lot of things going on Saturday here in Bloomington. Not only did we have the Juneteenth celebration, we had a first Friday or a Saturday night downtown concert. We had the farmers market on Saturday and then a huge crowd at the arena for the WWE wrestling event. So a lot going on in the city of Bloomington and just wanted to highlight all the activities that we had going on this weekend. And then the final slide, just for the community, starting July 1, the cost for our city's leak protection program goes down to 85 cents. But if you want to enroll in the service line coverage for either your water or sewer line, you need to do that. You have to opt into those programs. The city no longer is responsible for or maintaining that coverage. So you have to opt in to a separate provider, and we've got all that information on our website. And the residents are encouraged to look at that and consider getting that coverage for your water and sewer lines. So again, if you want more information on that, you can go to our website. There was also an insert in the latest utility bill. And that's all I've got, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. I'm not going to say anything else because I embarrassed myself enough on Saturday. So, council members, do you have anything you'd like to add? But just let me just say, thanks again for all of the, especially Juneteenth. I heard a lot of very, very good comments about it, and also for all that is happening in Bloomington. There is so many events, in one day, that it's very hard to be able to make all of those. So I think it is really exciting. Nothing can complain about the fact that there is nothing to do in Bloomington, so quite a few things. Let's go Councilmember Crumpler and then Ward.
Thank you, Mayor. Just reiterating some of what was already said. I was so proud to be at the softball game on Saturday. And I was a cheerleader along with Councilmember Boland. We had pom-poms. 4 of the team members are sitting around this dais right now, and other team members are out here in the audience. Our Bloomington team played a great game. They modeled team spirit and sportsmanship for all of us who cheered them on. Thank you.
Yes, it was a moral victory.
I was simply gonna suggest that perhaps we could link recruitment for the softball team to recruitment for police and fire or something like that. And maybe get people who actually are, I don't know, physically fit and involved.
Okay, well, thank you. And with that, we are going to adjourn. Can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Boland, second by Councilmember Kearns. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, we are adjourned. Let's not forget 4th of July celebrations at Miller Park.